current affairs have been very useful. If you had been following these sessions, you would have answered, you could have answered many questions in UPSC. ठीक है, मेरे खुद के IR के session से you could answer 5 to 6 questions if you were following these sessions very seriously, right? So अभी भी आगे जो भी हम discussions करेंगे, जो अगले साल prelims लिख रहे हैं, या जो हरियाणा का जुलाई में पेपर आ रहा है उसका प्रीलिम लिख रहे हैं, उन सब बच्चों के लिए ये डिस्कशंस बहुत ज़्यादा यूजफुल रहेंगी, राइट? गुड आफ्टरनून टू एवरीवन हु इज़ जॉइनिंग अस राइट नाउ, राइट? सो लेट्स सी. सो टुडे the important topic of our discussions will be as shown on the screen, right? सबसे पहले we will be discussing about the organization for Islamic cooperation. सबसे पहली organization, this is the one that we will be discussing, right? Then after this, just give me a second. Just give me a minute, please. Just give me a second, please. Yes, so we are back with our discussion. I hope you are all able to see me and hear me now, right? So, yeah, don't worry, it's going to be majorly in English only. I just use some time, I rephrase the same thing in Hindi, so that agar koi Hindi ka, if there is some student that is belonging to Hindi and who is not very efficient, or if very strong in English, they could also understand. So I do not say anything very different in Hindi. I just say the same thing in Hindi also what I have said in English, right? So be patient, listen to me carefully, it will be helpful for you, right? So now the topics of today's discussion are going to be these that are written on your board. The Organization for Islamic Cooperation, first very important organization that we will be discussing from prelims perspective, from mains perspective also we will discuss on that, right? Related to it, we will discuss the India's relations with the Gulf nations, right? Gulf nations are the major parties that are that form the membership of OIC. So we will also see how India has developed its relations with these Gulf countries, right? The next important discussion will be on Tiangong, right? What is it? Why is it in news? That we will see. After that, we will discuss something about Bhakti movement, the details of Bhakti movement, what is Bhakti movement, how it is divided into various groups, and the major prominent saints of Bhakti. And out of that, one major Bhakti saint, that is Sant Kabir, that we will discuss in detail, because in the week we saw his birth anniversary, because of which this topic also becomes important, right? So let's begin with our first topic. The first topic for today's discussion is Organization for Islamic Countries, right? So this is in news because of some controversy that was created. This is BJP spokesperson who commented something related to Islam and which created all this fury. So for our exam perspective, important discussion for us in all this issue is about OIC. ठीक है, आपको उस you do not have to go in the details of the issue. आपको उस issue की details में नहीं जाना है, किसने क्या कहा, what were the outcomes, all those things you do not have to focus. That is not useful for you in as per your exam is concerned. Just to focus upon OIC, right? So as you can see in the map, OIC is the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. So basically this is a organization or a grouping that is formed by majorly Islamic countries in the world. So आप देखिए Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait. So all the countries that have Muslim population, Bangladesh, Indonesia, all those countries, right? Even in the Southeast Asia, all are part of OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries, right? So it's an intergovernmental organization of Islamic nations. यही हमने पढ़ा, सारे Islamic nations जो हैं उनकी ये intergovernmental organization है. Now what is the purpose of this organization? To take forward the interests of the Muslim community. जहाँ जहाँ Islamic community रहती है वहाँ वहाँ Islamic community के interests को आगे लेके जाया जा सके. So it's a collective voice. ठीक है, ये सब इस्लामिक वर्ल्ड की वॉइस की तरह एक्ट करती है. इट एक्ट्स एज अ कलेक्टिव वॉइस ऑफ द मुस्लिम वर्ल्ड, राइट? सो इसका एम क्या है? इट एम्स टू सेफगार्ड एंड प्रोटेक्ट द इंटरेस्ट्स ऑफ मुस्लिम्स living all around the world. जहाँ जहाँ भी Muslims are staying in the world, the focus of this organization is going to be to protecting and safeguarding the various kind of interests of Muslim, be it cultural interest, be it religious interest, be it their economic or political representation. Everything will be looked forward by OIC, right? So the next important fact is the headquarters of OIC are located in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia or Jeddah, the important city of Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, that sees the headquarters of OIC, right? So इसीलिए ये map को थोड़ा ध्यान से देख लीजिए. You can also in your atlases check the concrete position of different countries. Saudi Arabia, right? Iran, Iraq, ये सब countries की positions try to check it on the on your atlas, right? यहाँ पे OIC I have shown you in a broader sense, right? Let me just try, right? So here you can see OIC. Yes, Saudi Arabia, this is Saudi Arabia that you can see. Most of the North African part of the continent is Islamic, so those countries are also added to this area, this region. Then Iraq, Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia, all these are part of this organization, right? Now, so how are India's relations with OIC? देखिए, India also has one of the largest, even second largest Muslim population in the world, right? So India may be majority of the Muslim population that resides in India itself. So by that means India should also have been the member of OIC since its foundation, right? तो उस मतलब से तो OIC का member India को भी होना चाहिए. But is India a member of OIC? So the answer is no. The answer is no. Still India is not a member of OIC. Why? I think you can all answer why India has not yet become the member of OIC. Because OIC has been led by Islamic countries. It's a grouping of Islamic countries, and you see India's relations with the Islamic world had not been very well in the past. In the recent, you are seeing that India is developing strong relations with various countries, Islamic countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iran. So we have very strong relations now. But in the past, we are talking about 1970s. 1917s it got established. At that time the relations of India with the Islamic nations were not very strong. OIC favored Pakistan more than India in all the cases, right? So India could not become the member of. Muslims are not in minority, that is not the reason. So a student Mohit Rawal is answering that because Muslims are in minority in India, that is why India is not a member. No, that is not the case. The purpose of OIC is to take care of all the Muslims living all around the world. So then it doesn't matter if in a country they are in minority or majority, राइट ऐसा नहीं है कि माइनॉरिटी एरियाज वाली पॉपुलेशंस वाली कंट्रीज को वो नहीं इंक्लूड करेंगे, राइट? दे इंक्लूड एवरी एरिया वेयर मुस्लिम पॉपुलेशन एग्जिस्ट्स. Even India should be a party, but India is not a party because this India did not have very strong relations with the Islamic nations at that time. All these Islamic nations, Saudi Arabia, your UAE, all of these countries were having strong ties with Pakistan. So they used to follow, you know, the interests of Pakistan. Though in the meetings of OIC they used to raise the question of Kashmir, they used to, you know, raise all these questions that were not in the interest of India. So India never wanted or never became the member of OIC till that time, right? See here it is written also, it was humiliatingly ejected at the behest of Pakistan. When India even tried to become the member, at that time because of Pakistan, India was not allowed to become a member, right? So now, see, now India has worked a lot, India's foreign policy has grown a lot, and we have developed very strong ties with these Islamic countries, Saudi Arabia, with Iran, with the UAE, with all those countries we have some of the largest economic and political partnership, right? UAE is even the second largest trade partner of India, right? So इसी वजह से today the relationships that we share with Islamic countries that are unparalleled. So because of development in the relationships, India was invited into the meetings of OIC, right? So 45th session में that was held in 2018, right, when Sushma Swaraj, late Miss Sushma Swaraj, who used to be our external affairs minister, she was invited as the guest of honor, you know, as the guest of honor in 2019, right? That, you know, really raised the status of India. 2018 mein they were normally called as, you know, Bangladesh proposed that India should be given an observer status because India has 10% of the Muslim population, and listening to Bangladesh and many other countries, in 2019 finally Miss Sushma Swaraj, the foreign minister or external affairs minister at that time, was called for as the guest of honor. So this was a very great achievement for India because of the India's diplomacy, because of India's management of its foreign relations. India was able to acquire a seat on the table of OIC. Majority Islamic nation की cooperation में India also got included, right? So that is why it's written, this first time invitation was seen as a diplomatic victory for India. India won over Pakistan in this situation, right? Especially उस time पे पुलवामा attack भी चल रहा था. That means the Islamic countries, instead of supporting Pakistan, they supported India, right? So diplomatic level पे this was a huge victory for us, right? So that is why India's relations with OIC are very significant. So now also India is trying to maintain that resonance with the countries. So now also Saudi Arabia, UAE, all these countries take care of interests of India in their mind. Usually they avoid making any comments or statements or joint agreements that are harmful to India. But recently, because of that controversy, it feels like that all the, you know, progress that we have made till now in our relations with OIC, that is getting washed away to some extent, right? Because they are now demanding apology from the Indian government itself, right? That is a big ask, that is a huge ask. So although India is a diplomatically very fine country, so we will manage the situation very well, but for our exam purpose you have to remember this fact. So all these you can mention in your mains exam. Whenever you are mentioning about India's relations with the Gulf, you can always mention that, see, India has worked so much on its foreign relations that even the Islamic countries now call India on the, in their grouping. While in 70s India was not even allowed to enter, it was humiliated and thrown out. Now they are themselves inviting India as the guest, right? That shows the success of Indian diplomacy with the Gulf nations, right? So remember that point. Now the next topic of our discussion is going to be India's relations with the Gulf countries. So what are the Gulf countries? So basically all those countries that are located near to your Gulf of Aden, right? यहाँ पे जो Gulf है, these are known as the Gulf Adens, that are Gulf countries that are surrounding the Gulf, right? So Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, ठीक है, Qatar, right, UAE, then Oman, all of these are Gulf countries, right? Now since we are discussing OIC, it becomes very important for us to also see India's relations with these Gulf countries, right? How India is doing with these Gulf countries. What do you think? How are India's relations? Although I have discussed the basics, type in the comment box, what do you think? Does India has some progressive kind of relations with the Gulf nations, or it is in conflict with these nations, most of these nations, if we have to say? What do you feel? What are the elements that define the relationships of India and Gulf? If you think that the relations are good, then give me examples of how they are good. If you think they are not very good, then give me examples of how they are not very good. Yes, Rahul, they are progressive. Agree, they are progressive. Largest Saudi, yes, like I said that UAE is the third largest, Saudi Arabia fourth largest trading partner. Yes, you can say that. Yes, trade, diaspora, Mohammed Siddiqui, you are right. Anushri, positive, very right. And conflicting relations, Prithvi, justify that little more. And Vivek says remittances, very good, yes, that is also a positive development. Shreya says trade defines these relations, especially in oil and gas, right? So you all are moving in some right direction. So progressive, yes, Yamanadeep, right? So let me read one more answer. Yes, so Gulf nations, yes, Yash is asking, so Gulf nations are part of OIC. Yes, you see most of these countries are Islamic countries, so they are part of the Organization of Islamic Countries, right? Yamandeep, very good. Recently I have also discussed in my videos, Ranveer Singh, you might have seen, he was given golden visa also by UAE, right? Right, so wahi sab, the significance of Gulf for India is very huge. You can think of multiple points, but some of the most important points are here, right? Sabse pehle, the very first cause or the pillar of the relationship of India and Gulf is the pillar of trade, right? So see, the Gulf countries, especially UAE, they are benefiting a lot by selling their products to India. If you have ever observed, especially if you are living in bigger cities like Chandigarh or Mumbai, you might have noticed that you are getting many products which are made in Dubai these days, right? Either made in Dubai, Abu Dhabi or UAE, they write it, ठीक है? आपको उर्दू में लिखे हुए ऐसे बहुत products मिलते हैं. That is because India's trade with UAE is on a very high or very progressive trajectory. UAE is India's third largest trading partner. We discussed in last video, USA, then China, then UAE. That is the order of our trade with the rest of the world. So UAE is the third largest trading partner of India, right? Also Saudi Arabia is the fourth largest trading partner, right? So that means you see these countries have to go, they get lot of benefits by having good relations with India. So that is why our relations with these Gulf countries, these Islamic countries are improving a lot, because they can get huge market. I have already told you India has a huge market of 1.3 billion plus people. All this can be leveraged by these Gulf countries who are looking for markets, right? So firstly, the trade component makes a significant pillar of India and Gulf relations, right? Now second, energy. Energy forms the second pillar of India and Gulf relations. As some of you have mentioned, India imports lot of oil from these Gulf nations. Hamara majority of our oil comes, as it is written that 60% of our oil over the 15 years has come from this region itself, right? So that means for our energy security, for meeting our electricity needs, for meeting all other needs run by oil, we are dependent on this region, right? So again, this is a important region, right? Then the third pillar is diaspora, right? So you see lot of Indian people, they are residing in these countries, right? They are residing in these countries as laborers or in various forms they are working there, right? So to maintain their interests also, India is having very good relations with the Gulf members. So you see, as it is written, UAE has 3.42 million Indians, 3.42 million. See how large that number is. According to the Ministry of External Affairs, Gulf has the largest numbers. ठीक है, आप you might have read about Indian diaspora. India has two types of diaspora. One is highly skilled and the other one is non-skilled or low skilled, you can say. So majority of this diaspora goes to countries like USA, Britain, Canada, Australia, and most of this labor goes to these countries, Saudi Arabia, because they need labor and the labor is provided by Indian workers also, right? So there is lot of diaspora that is residing here. Not just low skilled diaspora, these days these countries like UAE, they are focusing on their technological transition also. So Indian engineers and Indian management professionals are also working at higher levels in UAE. So you see, UAE's blockchain program is being headed by one Indian only, right? Indian engineers are performing a very great role there, right? So in all those ways, Indian diaspora is performing a great role in these Gulf nations. So that is why diaspora becomes the next pillar of our bilateral relations, right? Ab jab diaspora is there, so they will also send back money to their families in India, and that is what gives rise to remittances. India is anyways the biggest recipient of remittances in the world. If you check World Bank's data, $84 billion worth of remittances India receives each year, right? India is the largest recipient. Out of that $84 billion, majority of our remittances, they come from Gulf nation also. Gulf nations form a very huge part of these remittances for India. Even you see, Kerala is the state which sends majority of the laborers to Gulf nations. So they have also established NRI investment fund, in which they seek to get investments from these NRIs into the Kerala's economy. right? That is an example of how innovatively they are using their mind to get the money that is present with the non-residential Indians, right? These are some extra facts that I am telling you. You can use them in your answers, right? Right? Yes, you are right. Shah Rukh Khan is also used as the brand ambassador. Ranbir Singh ko bhi they gave the golden visa. So all these developments that are happening. Even cricket, you can say cricket or sports diplomacy is also high. You see, because of COVID, we could not conduct matches in India. So we shifted all the matches to nothing but Dubai and the other cities of UAE, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. In sub cities mein we hosted the Indian matches there, right? So in that way also we are having strong relations with Gulf, right? Write down these points briefly in your notes. These will help you answer questions very clearly and effectively. Now the next topic of today's discussion is China is on the way of launching its own space station, right? The name of its space station is Tiangong, right? Right, so it's in news. It can anyway be asked in any prelims examination that what does Tiangong refer to, right? So you must know that it is the space station that China is trying to construct. As per now, as per the current conditions, we have an international space station where astronauts of various countries visit and do their scientific space research. But here China wants to create its own space station so that it can carry forward its scientific space research, right? Yes, Mohit, you are right, right? So this is what is the scenario. So that is why it's been news. So what does the news says? Tiangong space station is a space station that is being constructed by China, and it is located in the low earth orbit. Any observatory or station will be in low earth orbit only. That means between 340 to 450 kilometers mein rahega, right? What will be its use? As I told you, to conduct space related research, right? China wants to establish its own space station to conduct space research, right? In general, Tiangong also means heavenly space. So it's expected to become fully operational by the end of 2022, right? We will see Chinese space station by the end of 2022. It is going to be a great achievement for China because it will be the only country having its own space station in the space. Rest we see ISS, International Space Center, where multiple countries have cooperated, like USA, Russia, Canada and all. They have cooperated to give rise to this International Space Station, and it is open to every country. Even Chinese astronauts go there, Indian astronauts visit there, right? So that is open to all. But here China will make its own space station. It will open it to other countries also, but that will also show the rising power of China, right? The basic idea here is this development shows that how China is growing as a great power in the world, right? They also have the capacity, the technological as well as the financial capacity to establish their own space station, right? So see the significance. You can use these points as examples whenever you are writing answers. If you have to anyway at any time mention about China and its rise, you can always mention one such example, saying that see, China is the only country which has gained that power to set up a international space center for itself, right? So not just in prelims, all these discussions you can very well use in your mains answers also. Prelims mein to they will be directly applicable, in mains you can use them smartly according to your need, right? So now we'll discuss about Sant Kabir as well as Bhakti movement. Why is it in news? As I told you, because recently President Ramnath Kovind has inaugurated Sant Kabir Academy at Research Center, right? So to pay a tribute to Sant Kabir, so because a new institution has been established, so it becomes important for us to know the details of this institute, this movement. So before we discuss about Bhakt Sant Kabir, we will first discuss about the Bhakti movement to which Sant Kabir belongs, right? So सबसे पहले Bhakti movement है क्या? So as you might have read in your modern or cultural history, in the 14th-15th century, we saw the spread of socio-religious or cultural movements, Bhakti and Sufism, right? They initially, it initially began in the 7th century, but it slowly spread to the, various nations, various parts of India by 14th to 15th century. Right? So Bhakti movement is a very important development. In your mains answer writing, it's used a lot. Even in your prelims, they can ask questions on this, right? So now, what was the focus of the Bhakti movement? As I told you, it was focused on social and religious reformation. So they gave up all the evils that were prevalent in the society at that time. That means they gave up the idea of caste, they gave up the idea of gender-based divisions, they gave up the ideas of ritualism, they gave up the ideas of idol worship, right? So all the evils that were existing in the society at that time were loathed or criticized by the Bhakti movement. So you can see that all the Bhakti poets, they focused on abolishing the Varna system. In their writings, in their poems, they always criticized the Varna system, right? They promoted religious harmony in the country, right? They promoted religious harmony. Religion based maybe divides they did not agree to, right? All the social evils they are against, right? So religious based divides were also rejected by these Bhakti movement followers, right? They saw emotional or our direct link with the God. So they said, instead of performing rituals, ceremonies and all these things, focus on internal reforms and internal connection of your soul with the God, right? Do not try to bribe the God to get your way, rather have a peaceful connection with the God from your internal side. So that was the Bhakti movement. Had two sects also, Nirguna and Saguna Bhakti, right? So Nirguna and Saguna Bhakti, the difference was that Nirguna means a formless God. They did not see God in any form. That means they did not accept idol worship. They did not accept God in any form. While Saguna Bhakti, they had idol worship and all those features also, right? So that is how Bhakti movement was divided, right? Two set of important poets also developed in Bhakti, that is Alavars, the worshippers of Vishnu, Vaishvanite, right? And then Nayanars, the worshippers of Shivite or Shaivism or Shiva god, right? So ये दो type के poets भी develop हुए, right? Alavars and Nayanars, right? Then an important book, that is Naira Divya Prabandhan. This was composed by Alavar poets. So jitni bhi the writings of Alavar poets have been compiled in the form of this text. ठीक है? So make a note of this text, the name of this text. This will be very useful, can anytime be asked in the examination, right? So this we have discussed broad categories, Saguna, Nirguna, without attributes. The Saguna included tradition that focused on worship of specific deities like Shiva, Vishnu, goddesses or his avatars, right? For Nirguna Bhakti, there was no form, abstract form of God, right? They did not see form in the form of a, God in the form of an individual like Shiva or Vishnu, or in the form of ideal. For them, God was within us, right? Our thinking, our connection with our soul, that was the meaning of religion or Bhakti for Nirguna followers, right? So that was the difference, right? Then an important Bhakti movement women poet was Andal, Andal, so remember her name. She saw herself as the beloved of Vishnu, right? Jaise Meera Bai, you see in the area of Rajasthan. In the similar fashion, Andal was an important, devotee अलावर सेक्ट की, विष्णु को वर्शिप करती थी वो, right? In the similar fashion, in south, Karyakal Amyar, this important woman was an important devotee of Shiva. Right, questions are sometime asked on these, that who are the Alava poets. वहाँ आपको 4 options they will give you. You will have to tick which are the Alava poets, right? So in that way, these are significant. You must know that which are some of the important Alava sect poets, which are some of the important Nayanar sect poets. So Andal was Alava poet, women devotee, and Karyakal Amayar was Shiva devotee. That means she belonged to Nayanar sect, right? So that is what about the basics of Bhakti. More you can read in your books also, right? Now we will discuss about Sant Kabir, right? So he is also again a important personality. He belonged to Nirguna Bhakti sect, right? Nirguna Bhakti, that means formless or abstract God, right? Like it's written, formless being that is universally present, right? Many of the see, it's also important, as I told you, that these movements, Bhakti and Sufism, they focused on killing the evils of the society. So majority of the poets that you see in Bhakti, they came from the so called lower caste itself. So majority of these poets are either, they are from the artisanal class, right? या तो वो मोची होते हैं, या तो वो carpenters होते हैं, or they are धोबी, the so called lower caste as they were called in that previous time. So majority of the Bhakti poets, they came from these caste and classes only, right? Kabir was also one such weaver who came from the lower caste, weaver or Julaha, right? So that is also important feature that you should know. And now the important writings or important texts written by Kabira. This is very important. Already question has been asked on Bijak, that who wrote Bijak. So this is exactly present in your old NCERT. If you follow the books carefully, you will be able to cover these facts. So बीजक is one such important. यहाँ पे notes बना लीजिए, ये भी आपको बहुत help करेंगी. Just make notes on Sant Kabir from here itself. So what are all the books written by him? Kabir Granthawali, first one. Then Anurag Sagar, second. Bijak, very important question already asked. And then Sakhi Granth, right? Now also remember that in the Guru Granth Sahib, Sikhism has one important text, that is Guru Granth Sahib, Shri Guru Granth Sahib. And in this Guru Granth Sahib, we also see the mention of or the inclusion of the poems of Kabira, right? Of Sant Kabir, right? So you see the major part of his work, his means Kabir's work, were collected by the 5th Sikh Guru, that is Guru Arjan Dev Ji, and then he included these into the Guru Granth Sahib, right? Sikhism's important scripture, Guru Granth Sahib, has the poems of Kabir also, right? And Kabir usually used to use the local language, Hindi language. As I asked to see, most of these saints, they want to spread their message. So the message can be spread only in the language in which the masses understand, right? So in the area where he was operational, there the masses were familiar with Hindi. So majority of his write-ups and developments are in Hindi language, right? So that is how he is important, right? These are some other personalities related to Bhakti movement. Please read them. These are very important. Kannada region से you have Basavana, again very important. Shiva या लिंगायत भक्ति का बहुत ही important leader रहे हैं ये. So इनके बारे में भी ज़रूर study about him, right? Maharashtra में Varakaris were the Bhakti movement followers. In Assam you have Sankara Dev, right? Bengal mein Chaitanya, again very important, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has been asked in mains twice and he has been asked in prelims also. So again a very important and renowned personality, right? Then again Kabir, Ravidas, Guru Nanak in the Nadran part, right? Then Mirabai in Rajasthan, right? Then Surdas, Narsimha Mehta and Tulsidas from Gujarat area and other such areas, right? So all this list is very important. Isko you make a note of this list and also try to go in the detail of their contributions. Like I told you, Basavana's contribution you should know. I have already discussed it in one of my videos. If you want, you can check back in one of my Thursday videos. I have already discussed Basavana in detail, right? In the similar fashion, Chaitanya is also very important, Shankara is also very important, and question can be asked on any of these personalities. All of them are very relevant for your examination. So try to make a list of these and try to know more about their contributions, right? So that is all for this discussion. Hope this helps. If you have any doubt, then mention in the comment box. We'll be replying that to you. Thank you so much for joining.